Okay, welcome everyone. It's Tuesday, June 18th. We're here in County Chambers. And it is 6:43 p.m. Council colleagues, I'll look for someone to read the land acknowledgement after I call the meeting to order. Just quickly, though, a few quick remarks. As I think most of you here may be aware, and those watching online, the arena side of our municipal center is open and available for cool down should anyone wish to seek some relief from the heat. So the lobby, the arena side lobby is open from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. every evening. There's a water filling station, some benches, some tables. So please spread the word. I know that there are some seniors in particular that may not have air conditioning. If they need a little relief coming our way is more than welcome. And that's equally true for any youth, among others, who needs a bit of cool air amidst all this hot weather. Our pool also opened on the weekend, which is very exciting as we've eagerly anticipated the opening of the new pool house. You'll see lots of changes, family style change rooms, indoor and outdoor washrooms, a dedicated learning classroom for our lifeguards, and appropriate storage facilities for all of the materials that make our pool go. So that's really wonderful to see it come to fruition after 5 years. And thanks to Mr. Guy and his team for overseeing a complex project. We also have the splash pad right next door now. And so that's another amenity that has come online just in time with the heat wave. Yesterday, we also, council was very pleased to be part of the groundbreaking for our forthcoming CT scanner. So this has been a long time in the works between the municipality and the United Counties. We've contributed $1.8 million to an over $4 million project, and the Campbell District Hospital Foundation and the Campbell District Hospital Auxiliary have been dogged and determined to raise the rest of the money and have come very, very close. So we congratulate them, and you'll see some building around Campbell Hospital. There's a modular build being planned to house the CT scanner, and some of the preliminary works will happen later this summer. And two more things quickly. We were pleased as a council to also join grade 6 students from Oxford and Rideau this morning for the grand opening of the Habitat Pollinator Garden. This was a real world learning initiative led by grade 6 students, as well as two highly valued municipal advisory committee members, Nadia and Philip, who have spent hundreds of hours working with kids at the school. And the Habitat Garden is in one of our municipal parks, Crozier Park. So it's available for all to see. And finally, I think we're all aware of the construction on County Road 43. We want to thank you for your patience. There were some additional one-lane road closures planned for this week to actually build some additional pedestrian thoroughfares so that people can still safely use County Road 43 in the coming months as construction intensifies. So appreciate that everyone is certainly trying to be as patient as possible and understand the long-term value of that particular initiative. So with that, I will call the meeting to order, and I'll look to one of my colleagues to read the land acknowledgement. Councillor Wilson.
The municipality of North Granville acknowledges that the municipality operates on the territory of the Anishinaabe. We recognize all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people who now call North Granville their home. We respect and support the need for cultivating a strong relationship, and we commit to Indigenous informed decision-making to foster the path towards reconciliation.
Thank you. So council colleagues, you'll recall that in our meeting earlier today, where we had to deal with some business and closed, we did adopt the agenda. We are therefore going straight to presentations and delegations. As you see, we have a number of presenters this evening, not just under delegations, but at other points in the agenda. So we have asked our presenters this evening to do their best to stick to 10 minutes, given what is a lengthy agenda. We also know that Oilers are playing tonight, the last Canadian team in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So we wish them well. So first we'll invite Angie Brown to come up from Shelter Movers so that we can learn a little bit more about that initiative. Welcome, Ms. Brown. And all you have to do is turn on the mic, please.
Can you
Thank
hear me?
you. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for
You
having
can just
us.
maybe put the mic down a little bit. There you go.
Better?
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you for having us, me to represent Shelter Movers. So we are a national organization, nonprofit, and we provide moving and storage services at no cost to individuals fleeing abuse. And so I operate under the Ottawa chapter, but I'm a rural extension coordinator. So we've launched, doing a soft launch into Leeds Grenville to provide our services. So I kind of already just did that. And you can go next, Chloe. So we recognize that gender-based violence is a very real problem and prevalent in all of Canada. And that Shelter Movers was fostered and started, the thought process was to bridge the gaps of violence against women, because we know that although we service and support any survivor fleeing abuse, that predominantly affects women and children. So that's kind of, we're just trying to, the violence against women sector is where the gap is, and that's why Shelter Movers was founded. Okay. And we also recognize, so Ottawa and our national chapter is in Toronto, and that started in 2016. And in 2017, they launched into Ottawa. And so as of April, we've launched into Leeds Grenville, recognizing that rural communities see a 75% increase in interpartner violence, and that's been reported by the police, and that we just know that there's many barriers. And so we like to, our idea is to kind of expand into rural communities to alleviate some of those. Some of the barriers is emotional, financial, residential, and safety. Some of the barriers that we remove financially, it's extremely expensive to move. We recognize that. So providing moving and storage services just alleviates a little bit of that barrier. Residentially, we know that there's not a ton of shelters and emergency housing for survivors fleeing abuse. So we partner with a lot of different services to help and aid in the short notice leaving and fleeing abuse. So in Ottawa, So in Ottawa, we perform roughly 22 moves a month, and have and since we've launched into Lanark County in 2022, we have been doing about roughly 1 move rurally already. So we're hoping to kind of be able to extend once we get some more volunteers and our operational partners, that we'll be able to be doing more moves rurally as well here in Leeds Grenville. So there's 3 different types of moves that we provide. So there's this urgent exit, which is where we provide exits planned for clients and their children leaving the abusive home. Majority of those tend to be, we partner with police and or security to ensure that they can leave safely. Escorted moves is where we would return back to the home with the client. Again, depending on the situation, it could be with security or police to retrieve their belongings, and then they could put those in our storage facilities, what we again provide at no cost. And then the resettlement move would again is the bringing their belongings from our storage to their new home free of abuse. So those are the 3 moves we provide. Our process is we would take referrals come from referral partners. or person of authority, primarily to ensure that our clients are receiving the support pre and post move, as well as while we're supporting them during the move process. And so that can be many multitude of people. It can be, we've had pharmacists refer, we've had family doctors, shelters, police, victim services. There's really no, we just don't take self-referrals from the clients themselves. We just, so that way, when we get to the intake part, we primarily do the intakes with the case management so that we can assess the risk and get all the details, the size of the move and that sort of thing, without re-traumatizing our clients and having to dive too much into the actual situation that they're in. And then we move to the move coordinator, works out the logistics of dates and times and where we're picking things up and stuff. And then we build a team of volunteers that do the actual move. So then I already spoke about our community partners, so I'm kind of jumping all over the place. And then so our volunteers, we are 99% volunteer powered. So like I think Ottawa we have a team of 5 or 6. I think I'm the 6th paid employee and then it's all volunteers. So our process would be, we do a little bit of a phone screening initially. You create a volunteer hub profile, and we do onboard, then we do an interview and police check. And then there's an orientation just to talk about policies, procedures. So it's a little bit of a lengthy process to become a volunteer, but because of the nature of our work, we really feel that we need to have a substantial screening process for the safety of all of the other volunteers and our clients. And our clients, most of our clients are the ages of 18 to 55, predominantly women and children. So we serve any individual, doesn't matter their gender identity, but we just predominantly, most of our clients are women and children. And these are some of our needs and are what we would call operational partners. And what we're looking for within communities is gas and insurance. We do volunteer training, so even partnering with like the health unit or victim services to do some trauma-informed training for our volunteers is kind of some of the things that we do. PPE, moving supplies, so boxes, tape, first aid kits. Storage is a big one for us, as we look to partner with storage facilities to ensure that we can provide that service at no cost and then vehicle rentals, because that's the biggest part of our operation is physically moving people's belongings from point A to point B. So those are our operational partners. These are our national operation partners that we have. So storage access and mini mall, and then security. We don't have any at the moment here in Leeds Grenville, I don't believe. And then enterprise and truck rentals and Penske offer at a reduced rate for us. So we get a discount when renting vehicles and trucks from them. But we are still looking to build some local partnerships. So we can kind of ride the back of national a little bit, but ultimately, there isn't always some of these national companies in rural communities, which is a little bit of puts it on my plate to make some partners locally. So then also, where I had mentioned the escorted move and then the high risk moves, we use local security and or police. So this is how, so if there's any gang affiliations, if there's known weapons in the home, if there's a no communication order or a restraining order, it is automatically considered a high risk. And so we work with local police forces to ensure that there's an officer that accompanies us for the entire time we're at the home, or removing the client and or resettling if there's at the risk, just to ensure the safety of our client and our volunteers and just make sure that it's incident free. And I think that's it. Yeah. And that's our chapter director, Ray Eskrit. But I am the local contact and I can share my business card with anybody. They can contact me personally if there's anything.
Thank you so much, Ms. Brown, for being here. Council colleagues, any questions at this stage? Councillor Barkley?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. If someone wanted to donate, would they go to the website in order to make an online donation?
Absolutely. So the website is, everything is still operational under the Ottawa chapter for the moment, but so you would go to sheltermovers.com/Ottawa. You can volunteer, you can learn more about the organization, you can volunteer and you can donate all, and you can also request a move all on the website.
Would we be able to designate
Absolutely.
this chapter?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much.
They might, if you're looking to designate it specifically, you may want to maybe contact me personally first. Like, or, well, you can email me or, but I can direct you to my local chapter director so she can ensure that the funds are staying within Leeds Granville. But that absolutely, they've managed multiple large donations that are specific to geographical areas and stuff. And that's absolutely, they manage those funds quite all the time. It's a very often, they're asked
Great.
to do so.
Marvelous service. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, colleagues, at this stage? Angie, have you moved anyone yet in this area? Are you sort of gearing up for?
So
launch?
Shelter Movers has,
Okay.
we are all ready and
Okay.
have done moves in Leeds Granville. They worked and partner with Interval House in Brockville.
Great.
So we just haven't opened the floodgates for referrals
Right.
just until we build up a good base of volunteers. Because at the moment, even our Lanark moves, a lot of our volunteers are coming from Ottawa. So it's just a big ask. And then we're also, you're pulling your volunteer pool from your moves in Ottawa to come to do, right? We're hoping that the rural communities will be able to withstand and build their own pools so that they can be sustainable on their own. So that's I'm tasked with building that here in Leeds Granville.
So volunteers is your number one priority right now?
Volunteers and storage.
And
It's like an
storage.
operational partners are my two
Right,
two
gotcha.
things, yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you so much. I just want to make sure there's nothing else from council colleagues. This is a remarkable initiative and, we heard about Shelter Movers during the pandemic and they did a quick outreach with us at that time. But I think it probably became obvious to them that those local champions such as yourself and individuals who could be retained to really build up the networks and the capacity here that was a vital part of growing the service and truly, I think, meeting the needs, not just here in North Grenville, but across the counties, as you've noted. So thank you very much for your service. We do appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me and allowing me to share.
Of course.
Thank you.
Best of luck. Keep us posted.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, council colleagues. We are going to receive the presentation by Shelter Movers this evening. So if I could just look to a mover and a seconder, that would be great. And as a seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Barkley. And I'll call the question on receipt of the presentation this evening. Thank you. Excellent. Okay, so in addition to our next delegation, I apologize, council colleagues, I failed to alert you to the fact that we also have Sabine Matheson, Principal for Strategy Corp, presenting as well as the Chamber of Commerce a little bit later in our agenda. But before obviously we get there, we want to welcome our second delegation, and that is Heather Papazzi to come down to present her perspective on Ferguson Forest. Welcome, Heather. And I know Chloe's just helping me keep track of time. I'm not very good at it. So I've asked her to poke me. We'll let you know when you're at the 10-minute mark. Okay, thanks. Yeah, just turn on the mic. And I think you have a slide presentation.
I do. Do I control them or do you click? Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council, and citizens of North Grenville. My name is Heather Papazzi. I, as well as 605 supporters, strongly oppose the disposition of land request as previously presented to Council. I will demonstrate why the land disposition is fiscally irresponsible and highlight the potential for a 21st century urban forest. Selling our land for a one-time gain is not okay. This action hands over profits to developers. We must remember the Algonquin peoples whose land this originally was. The land is a vital part of their culture and heritage. The FFC needs sustainable solutions, and we need to protect our 13 acres and focus on generating long-term municipal revenue. As we approach the 80th anniversary of the Ferguson Forest Center's stewardship, the land stands as a cornerstone of North Grenville's heritage. Our municipal plan, which also directly aligns with the Ontario Farm Association's mission, is dedicated to safeguarding agricultural and rural lands from overdevelopment, fragmentation, and incompatible land use. The reason we currently have forestry and agricultural lands zoned together is because it simply works. Previous generations were aware of this, and that is why we continue today. By stopping this land disposition, we create opportunity for North Grenville to build our cultural and natural heritage. With 79 years of active stewardship and ownership, North Grenville stands poised to achieve its own heritage status in forestry and land management, both federally through Parks Canada and provincially. These designations would recognize North Grenville's commitment to environmental stewardship, land preservation, strengthening our community's identity. As North Grenville continues to expand, it's crucial to develop parkland spaces that serve all residents. The Riverside Park enhancements, though beneficial, highlight the disparity in resources across different areas of the municipality. New developments north, east, and west of 43 require equal accessibility to high-quality, diverse parkland. Investing in a 21st century urban forest on the highly visible 13-acre site along 43 can fill this gap. This initiative supports our growing population, reduces vehicle traffic through the FFC grounds, creates accessible parklands for those with physical limitations or without transit access, and utilizes the new multi-use path. This vision aligns with the Ontario government's cultural planning and land use objectives as outlined by the Ministry of Tourism, Culture, and Sport. Urban forests are vital for mental and physical health, as evidenced during COVID. They serve as a natural shield against adverse weather, cool down roads and buildings, and manage rainwater. The proximity of high school to the 13 acres presents a unique educational opportunity for our children. Through partnerships with our school boards, we can develop forestry curriculum. This will help to cultivate environmental knowledge within North Grenville's youth. Long-term, we could expand to create science, research, and development centers on the ground. Urban forests serve as niche tourism attractions that create diversified revenue streams and will anchor our town as a destination. By reforesting these acres, it also significantly increases property values. Studies have shown well-maintained green spaces boost property values up to 20%. There are numerous reasons to retain the 13 acres and transform it into a forested gateway to North Grenville. This approach ensures that financial stability and revenue retention remain with the municipality, allowing us to drive the development rather than leaving the profits in the hands of developers. The North Grenville Municipal Plan clearly shows how land disposition proposal directly contradicts our commitment to preventing fragmentation and preserving the integrity of our agricultural zone lands. I'm sure the staff will address this in their presentation. The acreage in question fronts an active bare root crop production farm and reforested acreage. Mixed commercial and residential use of this land is highly incompatible. Allowing housing developments on agricultural zone land undermines zoning laws and planning principles. It disrupts the integrity of agricultural and forestry operations. These acres are vital to rural economies, providing jobs and supporting local businesses. Replacing them with developments threatens their sustainability and economic contributions. New housing will lead to an increase in municipal services demands. Factually, more houses do not result in lower taxes. These acres serve crucial functions, enhance biodiversity, pest management, carbon sequestration, soil preservation, and supports pollination and water filtration. Housing developments disrupt these functions, leading to increased carbon emissions, soil degradation, and water pollution. Elevated levels of sodium in well water can be directly attributed to urban development as pollutants from residential areas seep into grounds from urban runoff, further degrading well quality. Therefore, the additional development on these acres will further exacerbate the already problematic high sodium content in the FFC wells, as they pointed out within their land disposition proposal. I recognize that communities need to grow, and I'm hopeful that council recognizes that accessible urban forest is just as imperative for building our municipality. There are many ways for the FFC to raise the funds requested. With right professionals, perhaps in partnerships with our municipal grant writer, the FFC funding can be fully sourced. Here are examples of the easiest funding opportunities for the FFC to approach. They are ideal candidates for charitable status. This opens legacy planning, major gifts, and fundraising donations. They can easily offset the cost of carrying community spaces. I'm happy to provide detailed information as to why the FFC does qualify for this designation. Government and foundation grants can significantly support FFC initiatives. I'm happy to provide council and FFC with a full detailed list of grants. Grants offer substantial support to the FFC and help them effectively achieve their goals. Co-Action, Community Funding Program, Wildlife Habitat Canada, Environmental Damages Fund, Inclusive Community Grants, Ontario Trillium Foundation, direct municipal funding, which allocates budget funds as part of the Parks and Recs budget directly to the FFC for upkeep and expansion of the community amenities and maintenance. We have corporate sponsorship. Examples include TD Friends of the Environment Foundation, Tree Canada, Home Depot Canada Foundation Program, Scotia Community Program, RBC Foundation, Toyota Evergreen Learning Grounds, Hydro One Power Play programs, and Enbridge, to name a few. Government loans and finance programs. Examples are Canada Small Business Financing Programs, Canada Green Fund, Farm Credit Canada, Environmental and Sustainable Loans, Sustainable Development Technology, Agricultural Loans, Agra Invest, Community Futures Development Corporation. These loans are available on favorable terms for projects that benefit local economies. And there's also regional and economic development funds. I'll leave it at social enterprise loans, which are designed to support organizations and generate social and environmental benefits with financial returns. These could be crucial sources of funding. According to the 2022 audited financial statements, the North Grenville municipality has over 20 million in reserves, indicating that North Grenville does not need to sell the land for financial reasons. The FFC should engage an independent professional services firm such as MNP, one of its many in its field who provide accounting, tax, business consulting, and advisory services. This professional approach will help protect taxpayers' interests and provide the FFC with expert planning to optimize their operations. Keeping the 13 acres intact is crucial for North Grenville's future. Preserving these acres preserves our cultural and natural heritage. It offers unparalleled educational opportunities and will create diversified revenue streams. Developing these areas into well-designed urban forests highlights our innovative leadership in green space management, transform land into tourism destinations, attracting global ecotourism and drive economic growth. This strategic approach empowers citizens to drive our own capital investments. This vision not only preserves the past, but builds upon a resilient foundation for future generations and towards other land acquisitions. Our petition to halt the sale of Ferguson Forestry land has garnered 605 signatures, a powerful testament to our community's commitment to this vital land. This overwhelming response underscores collective dedication to afforestation, reforestation, and creating educational opportunities. Imagine, if you will, every child in North Grenville having the opportunity to plant and care for their own sapling on these 13 acres. This vision connects our children and land to land and honors the Algonquin people, values conservation, is fiscally responsible, and creates new revenue streams through our capital land investment. By stopping the land disposition and turning our vision towards a valuable revenue-minded reforestation project, we invest in the very soul of North Grenville. Let us come together to champion the future where our land and history and community thrive.
Thank you. We appreciate that. And you did a remarkable job at staying under 10 minutes. So thank you very much. That was very kind. So council colleagues, any questions at this time? I know, just to be clear, that we are not making a decision this evening. We're in a discernment period with Ferguson Forest, and staff have asked for a little more time, and certainly council has advised Ferguson Forest that we want more time to ensure that we've considered all the options and obviously done our own homework. So appreciate the considerable effort you put into this presentation. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to Heather. Have you had the opportunity or have you sought the opportunity to meet with members of the board of the Ferguson
I
Forest Center?
did. I've met with them twice. And I have presented all of the funding opportunities to them, as well as given them avenues and ways. The 2 million ask is not insurmountable by any stretch of the imagination.
We also had an opportunity to connect with the National Association of Nurseries because we also were curious about other opportunities for funding in the short term and the long term. So I know it's a bit of a tough time sort of for nurseries across the country in terms of particularly availing of some of that federal money that was announced a number of years ago. That program may change in the future, may stay the same. Was that part of your conversation to date, perchance?
With regards to their
The
purchases?
FFC, just in terms of where I think council has been curious is where is that external funding that might exist to support the modernization of nurseries?
Oh,
We absolutely appreciate the list of,
well, you
Well-
can go through corporate sponsorship. As you know, we sit in the Urbandale Theater, which is an obvious corporate sponsorship, cross-marketing. You can do in-kind. There are plenty of ways to get the actual physical infrastructure. Is that what you're talking about, or just financial?
it's clear that I think the nursery is in urgent need of modernization.
Yeah.
So where we've worked with the FFC to explore options is where are those capital dollars, right?
Wow.
That may exist or not exist. And currently, unfortunately, I think at this time, it's not obvious to us where the government of Canada, the provincial government currently provides that opportunity for modernization of capital.
This is where I think they would be wise to invest in a professional consulting firm to come in and drill down their inefficiencies and create operational deficiencies, see where they need, and see and everything would then bloom out of hiring a company such as MNP or KPMG. I believe that's who this municipality works with.
For auditing, yes.
Yeah, but they also have
For sure.
business consulting practices that would certainly be able to provide them with business direction.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, council colleagues? Okay. Oh, Councilor Sullivan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Heather, thank you for that presentation and all the work preparing it. I sit on the Ferguson Forest Center board, and I wasn't aware that you were meeting with us. So, and you met twice, and
I met twice with the 3 executive directors.
but not the whole board then.
No, I met with the intent to support them and try to close the gap so that we wouldn't have to go through a land disposition. Because I truly believe that the infrastructure and monetary monies that they're requiring are attainable without coming to council. And as we know, we also have the 20 million in reserves. So if council did want to issue a loan, they would be more than capable of doing that without the sale of the land and keeping it for us in the community and creating a gateway to North Grenville and showcasing accessibility. And as you know, with the senior boomers being the largest growing generation, they're going to need accessible parkland as well. And right now, the forestry is not accessible by foot and not really bicycle friendly either at this point. And that's not a bad thing. That's just a place where we can grow. And that frontage is a perfect entrance to the forestry. And it also complements our operations. And it supports their mission, which is afforestation and reforestation. So it's unnecessary to sell the land.
Thank you. Was the presentation you made to the 3 executive members the same as what you made to us this evening?
Yes, I came to them with grants opportunity, with charitable, with asking them that they should go after a charitable organization number, which they currently do not have. And that if they spliced off their parkland and trails and operated that through legacy grants or legacy donations, excuse me, and charitable donations, then that would alleviate that portion of their budget constraints. I also suggested, just like in 1995, when volunteers came in to aid in production and maintenance of the forestry, that they should look into that, since we do have an abundance of retired farmers, or at least they try to pretend that they're retired, but they actually go back into work every day, who I'm sure would like to come in and help out just as they did in 95, which then alleviates also the manpower hours that they're struggling with.
Okay, thank you. Perhaps it
welcome.
would have been good to have had that to the entire board. Thank you.
You know, I was ready and available.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Obviously, this is a decision that council takes very seriously.
Yeah.
For lots of different reasons, the current state of our reserves are such that many of them are already committed and dedicated, but appreciate your point nonetheless, and want to thank you for putting so much time into preparing your presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I also think that leaning, because they do also, you know, with the media release only going locally, that really stifled the efforts in order to garner more attention and garner more support provincially, as they do provide bare root trees provincially. So this isn't necessarily a local issue. This is provincial wide. And I think that them being the only bare root tree nursery not-for-profit in Ontario is significant. And I think that we actually should be celebrating that and highlighting that it should be less of a little secret gem that we have and more of a highly promoted. So that way we are not, as a municipality, being shouldered with trying to find solutions for the FFC shortfalls and failing infrastructure.
Okay, thank you. Much
Welcome.
appreciated. All right, council colleagues, I also understand that a deputation has been received, and I believe, Ms. Preston, you're going to read it, or is there resident in question here? Okay. Is the resident who submitted the deputation here? Is it your desire that the clerk read what you've submitted? Okay. Oh, you're happy to have the clerk read it. Okay, thank you very much. Go ahead, Ms. Preston.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Mayor. A deputation was received this afternoon from a resident with regards to the item with which we just heard. The following deputation was received. To whom it may concern, I would like to make the following deputation in relation to tonight's agenda item H2. Having read the presentation, Preserving Our Heritage Since 1945, Stop the Land Disposition, 13 acres, a gateway to North Grenville, attached to the 2024 June 18th council meeting agenda, the author's reasons for opposing the sale do not seem to recognize the following. The tree nursery is only one aspect of the heritage of this space. It was 3 farms, one a dairy farm operating on the marginal farmland before it was a tree nursery. This 11-acre property, no longer 13 due to highway expansion, as is the case for much of the nursery property, is not viable farmland. That's why the land was available for a tree nursery in 1945. Times change. What made sense or seemed good in 1860, 1920, 1945, etc., is not necessarily what's best today. This space has never been, is not now, and will never be critical to tree nursery operations. A bare field is not an environmental asset, and even the author seems to recognize this. They want it developed too, rather than preserved, just in the different way that would have, at best, negligible environmental, economic, and social benefit. Bare, barren, eroding fields are not a rich cultural landscape. Rather, it is the tree nurseries, buildings, greenhouses, and productive fields that are the current and ongoing embodiment of the forest station heritage. The FFC and the Kemptville campus currently have many ideal spaces for educational and outdoor programming. These 11 acres are simply not needed in that capacity, that would be extremely unlikely to be used in that capacity, no matter how they might be developed. Part of FFC's mandate is to promote afforestation, not conduct afforestation. which is preferable to ensure the reforestation of these few acres or to ensure the nursery is able to grow its capacity and can consequently to be able to provide trees for the afforestation of tens of even hundreds of thousands more acres than their current capacity allows. These 11 acres have the potential to generate considerable ongoing revenue for the municipality if sold and developed, which would be of ongoing benefit to the community in a myriad of ways. Then the municipality, if it so wishes, has an opportunity here to specify parameters that would ensure a well-treed landscape as part of such development, which could be a showcase for eco-development and urban forestry and a showpiece of mixed-use space that benefits our community. I understand that many people inherently don't like change. However, nothing good generally comes about without it, and the sale of this land has strong potential to bring about good things for North Grenville without sacrifice to either its heritage or its environment. Finally, I understand that a petition supporting the request to halt the sale of this land has garnered 606 signatures to date. However, the original petition, with ever-changing titles, one of which was "Don't Let Development Destroy Our Forest," was worded to give the impression that the forest, the recreational lands, and the nursery were all under threat, which is untrue and misleading. As such, many of these signatures have been gathered under false pretenses, as comments to the petition and on local social media pages attest. The original wording and subsequent revisions render the petition invalid, in my opinion. Thank you for your worship, members of council, and members of the community for consideration of the points raised today.
Okay, thank you. And of course, we're not here to debate this evening. We are just here to receive some additional information. So thank you once again to our delegation and to our deputation and council. Now we're going to need to move on to the many other matters on our agenda this evening. So I'll just look quickly for a mover and a seconder for the receipt of the presentation, Preserving Our Heritage Since 1945, Stop the Land Disposition, 13 Acres, a Gateway to North Grenville. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Seconder, please. Okay, Deputy Mayor Barkley, and I'll call the question. All in favor? Good, that carries. Thank you, colleagues. We'll now move on to our next motion or recommendation, and that is to receive and accept the submitted petition in regards to the sale of Ferguson Forest land in North Grenville. And I'll look to a mover and a seconder for that one, Councillor Wilson and Deputy Mayor Barkley. Thank you. And this is simply to receive the petition. I'm calling the question. All in favor? Great, thank you. So with that, we're moving on to our consent agenda. As you know, items listed on the consent agenda are considered routine or no longer require further discussion and are enacted in one motion. The exception to this rule is that a member may request that one or more items be pulled for discussion and voted on separately. Colleagues, I think you see a long list of items on the consent agenda this evening. I do have a question about one, so I'll pull it, and that's the assignment of Colonnade subdivision. It's I.7. So if you could ask that be removed, because I don't know what it means. Thank you. So I'll look for a mover and a seconder for the adoption of the consent agenda. Deputy Mayor, Councillor O'Sullivan, thank you. Calling the question. All in favor? Great. Thank you. So next we're going to go to, is Ms. Matheson here or virtual? Virtual. Great. So the long-awaited community economic development strategy, which is something that I believe we began nearly a year and a half, 2 years ago. Matt is now before us. Multiple iterations. I think we're going to hear from Ms. Matheson, and of course, then we'll hear from Mr. Gilmer and others subsequently. Is that right?
Yes, thanks, Mayor Peckford. Actually, if I could go first.
Sure,
to provide a
absolutely.
little bit of background, and then we can,
Absolutely. Go
throw
ahead.
it over to Sabine afterwards. So again, thank you, Mayor Peckford. I'd like to start off by thanking Sabine Matheson, who is, as you mentioned, joining us virtually here tonight, and the rest of the Strategy Corp team for working with us over the better part of the last 2 years to develop this new economic development strategy. And believe it or not, the last economic development strategy was developed back in 2007. So it's a long time coming, and we're certainly excited, and I'm excited to share this with council and the public as well tonight. I also wanted to take a moment to thank both the BIA and Chamber of Commerce for not only their support in the development of this strategy, but also for their continued support as we look to implement the strategy over the coming years. And you'll be hearing from Will Pearl, who is the chair of the Chamber of Commerce, a little later on. So as for my presentation, I'll keep it brief, I promise. But I'd just like to provide a bit of background and talk about how we got here today. So back in 2022, Council adopted the municipality's 10-year community strategic plan. And one of the main action items from that strategy was for us to develop an economic development strategy. In 2022, Council directed staff to move forward with an economic development strategy, and Strategy Corp was selected to develop the plan. Next slide, please. So throughout 2023, Strategy Corp worked with key stakeholders, including municipal committees, business leaders, and the BIA and Chamber of Commerce to develop the strategy. So in terms of next steps, staff will review the priorities outlined in the strategy and present recommendations to council, including suggestions for future budget allocation. Staff will continue to collaborate with the Community and Economic Development Advisory Committee and the Mayor's Task Force on Clean Technology to further explore target sectors identified throughout the strategy. And some of those sectors include agriculture, green technology, and tourism. Staff will also continue to work with the business community stakeholders, such as the Chamber of Commerce and Old Town Council BIA, to implement business attraction, retention, and expansion programs. As you know, small businesses are the backbone of our community, and we need to do everything possible to help support them. So as part of the 2024 budget, staff have allocated $25,000 for the implementation of the economic development strategy. I will now turn it over to Sabine Matheson, who is a principal at Strategy Corp, who will walk us through the strategy.
Thank you, Mr. Gilmore. And I think we're just queuing Ms. Matheson up. We're embracing this hybrid technology. It's going to work for us. We've had some success in previous months. I think we're close. So we don't see Ms. Matheson, but we do see the Strategy Corp presentation. Okay. Okay.
There we go. Can you see me? Or
We
can
hear you.
Okay, well, you know what? A lot of people would say that that's probably the best mix. I would also just comment that the report took so long that I believe I was still male when I submitted the original proposal. So that gives you an idea of how much things can change. And I guess, Madam Clerk, are you going to advance the slides for me?
Yes.
Great. Sure. Thanks so much. And we'll just dive right in. Really, the presentation, the purpose of this is to describe the vision, the values and guiding principles, and then take you on a tour of the strategic priorities. So if we could jump to the next slide. The vision of this strategy was very harmonious with your strategic plan. You'll recall that one of the key components of your strategic plan was striking the appropriate balance that's, I wouldn't call it unique to North Grenville, but it's certainly key to North Grenville's identity about being a place where urban and rural meet. So it's very much understanding that the task at hand is to achieve that in an authentic kind of way. I think another key component of this is that it really is not about government telling business what to do, but it's about government doing what government can sometimes do best, which is convene and make it easier for entrepreneurial energy to express itself through both, your core community, but also the various hamlets of North Grenville. If we can jump to the next slide, there were also 5 principles, and I don't propose to read them at you because you can read them more quickly than I can. Again, you'll see how these values reflect this sense of urban and rural and the creation of lasting relationships, because really economic development, it's a best practice to understand that comes from harnessing the energy of the community. And part of that is about creating opportunities for people to engage with one another, where they can connect and build those linkages that are so important to authentic and durable economic activity. Another thing is what leaps off the page of North Grenville is your geography and your natural assets. So it's clearly designed to take advantage of that and also to leverage and transform the community's existing institutions and creating opportunity for local and community-based hubs. So those are the principles. And that leads us to the next slide, which will take us to the 4 key priorities. The first being community readiness, the second being business retention and expansion, the third being work to ensure the foundation that allows for investment readiness, and then more specific marketing and sector attraction activities. And if we jump to the next slide, that's a convenient place to describe what these things mean. You'll see the pattern here. It sets out specific objectives under each one of these things. And those are further bolstered in the appendix to the document and also in the report itself, with further activities that elaborate on each one of these things. So you know me well enough to know any plan that we do, it's always our goal that it be really clear what you're going to do and that there be specific deliverables. Now, that's balanced against the availability of financial resources to support this. And as Matt already described, the initial financial commitment is relatively modest, but this is intended to be a plan that you grow into and resource as appropriate over time. So as you'll see, an awful lot of the activities are kind of aimed at either streamlining or removing red tape, convening, bringing people together, that kind of thing. This isn't a big spending plan. It's more of a big collaboration plan as the first round of activities. If we jump to the next slide, you'll see how when you combine these 4 things, they're projected out against specific areas of activity, because there's always a risk of trying to boil the ocean in an economic development plan. You want to focus. And so given one remarkable asset that you have, which is the authenticity of your existing agricultural community, plus the Kemptville College, obviously, agri-innovation was one of the things that came out of the work, validated by both council participants in it, as well as CDAC and others who were consulted. The second thing also coming out of the broader strategic plan was a focus on green technology. And then the third was tourism. I think then there was also an interest in, if you might call them sort of secondary sectors of interest, screen and media being one, because of the many photogenic assets that your community has in close proximity to, the film industry. So, and given the number of spinoffs that come from that, that was also an area that was identified. If we jump to the next slide, you'll see this, and then again the next, you'll see that this is, and I'm not going to propose in light of the time constraints of this evening, because I see I have a minute and 30 some seconds left. You'll see that in these slides, you get into the specific actions under each one of these headings, and you can see this is where these things become somewhat more granular. And these are going to be the activities that drive the work of Matt and his team over time. So, and if you just wanted to scroll forward, Madam Clerk, you can just get a sense of what some of the other ones are. But there's a fairly robust list of activities that will, drive the work for some time to come. And I think one of the most important things out of this is in a place like MNG, you've got the biggest asset that you've got is the people and the land. Like the land is remarkable, and you've got a well-educated workforce. It's a shame how many of them have to commute. The census data showed that an awful lot of them have to commute more than an hour to get to their place of work. So that this was really about trying to develop opportunities that were consistent with the strengths of the community, but that could also create more local-based economic activity because of the benefits that has both for the municipality and for the folks who live there. And with that, Madam Chair, I'll turn it back to you because that was exactly 10 minutes and 6 seconds.
Thank you. I think we were going to accord you a little more leeway, given that this has been such a comprehensive effort, and obviously Strategy Corp in partnership, certainly with Mr. Gilmore. I don't know why I said Gilmore. I apologize. Mr. Gilmore led the way. So, council colleagues, I'll turn it over to you for any questions for Ms. Matheson or Mr. Gilmore when it comes to implementation. And then, of course, we have Will Pearl here, I think, from the chamber, or representatives from the chamber, who are also going to provide some insight. And I know this opportunity was also extended to the BIA. But before we get there, chamber colleagues, any questions from council colleagues in regards to what's been presented so far? Yes, Councillor Strachan.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much, Sabine, and thank you, Matt, for this presentation. Like you said, it's a long time coming. It's good to see it come to fruition. I'm wondering if you, I guess directed to you, Matt, do you have any intention to re-engage with any of the advisory committees because their makeup has changed and certain focus areas have changed as well? Do you foresee an opportunity to meet with them again in the near future?
Yes, thank you for the question. And through you, Madam Mayor, certainly, I think the intent will be to go back to the advisory committees to discuss some of these priority sectors, obviously because they're some of the experts that we'll be working with. I give the Ag Committee as an example, right? As well as our Mayor's task force on clean technology. We'll certainly be working closely with them as we look to implement some of the action items.
A bit of a plug for something that's happened more recently, given what Sabine was saying around commuters. As some of you know, I wrote an op-ed in the Citizen appealing to the Treasury Board to reconsider some of its policies to send many of our commuters back to downtown Ottawa, most, if not 5 days a week, to be in downtown Ottawa offices when we know that a lot of those individuals benefited from hybrid work arrangements, which meant they were able to remain in the community for more days than they might have been in the office in downtown Ottawa or Gatineau. And we do know that by virtue of having more federal employees work from the community, they've been able to contribute to our local economy. So, Sabine, I don't know if you're aware of some recent interventions that we've been making in that regard, and a pitch actually to use Kemptville campus and its sprawling campus and some of its buildings potentially to provide some co-working space for federal employees. Not to say that that's an easy request given where the Treasury Board headspace is right now, but over time, it may emerge as something that is very viable and certainly something that is very much wanted among public service employees and I think the community as a whole. Did the strategy to that end look specifically at what industries Mr. Gilmer would create some of that employment? I know we looked at ag tech, we looked at tourism. Just to refresh my own memory, were those the two industries that were seen to be the most viable in terms of creating the conditions for more local employment, apart from what's here when it comes to professional services or the service industry more generally?
Yes, certainly. So I guess we identified them as priority sectors, but the top 3 sectors that we looked at and will continue to look at will be green technology, tourism, and agriculture.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Strachan?
Through you, Madam Mayor, and I think to add to the top three priorities, tourism is a pretty broad umbrella, and there's quite a few different ways that can be approached. I mean, I think of, the arts and culture side of things and what they can attract through public art and some of the initiatives that they have underway. Likewise, I think a lot of the work that's done at the advisory committee level will have touch points, I guess, with some of the tourism aspects. And I think further outside of the advisory committees, it's also things that are long established, like the Kemptville Farmers Market that continues to grow and be very successful and attract a lot of people from outside of our community and the like, that there are probably other areas there that would help round out the picture for the tourism aspect as well.
Thank you. Any other questions, colleagues, before we move on? Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And not a question, just a suggestion and get our minds thinking about implementation of the economic development strategy. We're reflecting on Sabine's presentation where harnessing the energy of the community was a priority, fostering those connections and creating opportunities. And you'll recall that you and I were part of a grand opening of a local business in which the manager of that operation was quite happy to have that open because they had been commuting to Barrhaven at another outlet. I'm just wondering how do we wrap our minds around enabling people to act as ambassadors of this community, because there's a lot of civic pride here, and I think we should put some thought to how we can mobilize that civic pride in terms of acting as ambassadors for this community and bringing businesses to it. Just a suggestion. Thanks.
Yeah, Mr. Gilmore?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through you, Madam Mayor. I think it's a great point. And I think not only marketing these community ambassadors, but also the business ambassadors, right? So making sure that we have, as part of our website, making sure that we spotlight these businesses and help them to market themselves as well.
And I guess that raises a point that maybe the chamber will highlight as well is, one of the arguments that I made in the op-ed in the Citizen is that a lot of residents who had been in the community a long time or were newer to the community during the pandemic had that opportunity to look around and discover a well-stocked hardware store or maybe a grocery store they hadn't been accustomed to frequenting, or maybe they thought, well, if I'm going to have to get my taxes done and I can't go into Ottawa anymore, I'll find someone to do it here. And obviously, we saw a resurgence or perhaps a revitalization to some extent of some local businesses that weren't well known throughout the entire community. And I think given our growth, it's obviously something that we really want to think strategically about is how do we ensure that people, particularly who are newer, but not only, fully appreciate the breadth and depth of services that are here, because certainly we know that there were all kinds of residents who were discovering and stumbling upon services and products and forging really important relationships with the business community during and after the pandemic that I think have proved to be quite beneficial. When I go into some of our even longer standing businesses, I say, how much of your customer base is new? What do you, like if you were to ballpark it? And often people say like 50-50, right? Which seems to highlight that maybe that's not true for every business, but that the growth is sustaining and helping to support businesses to certainly, if not grow, flourish even with their sort of current scope. Do you have any thoughts on that, Mr. Gobo?
Yes, if I could just add, as you may recall, last year we put out quite a large Shop Local campaign. You may still see some of the signs and door stickers out there. And that was actually an initiative that came from the Old Town Kemptville BIA. And it was a suggestion from them that we, continue to shout it from the rooftops that we need to shop local and encourage residents to shop local. And again, a lot of that did come from COVID as well, right? When as you mentioned, people realized that, hey, we do have a lot of the services locally and we don't need to go into the city because at that time, of course, we couldn't. So again, it's building off that to continue that shop local message in new and creative ways.
Thank you. And maybe, Sabine, while we have you worked with communities with sort of similar profiles, right? So I don't think we like to call ourselves a bedroom community, but we may have some of the habits of a bedroom community from time to time. What's your sense of how other communities have sort of managed that conundrum, if you will, where maybe more people than you want are leaving your community, but of course they're doing it for well-paying jobs, and you really want to create that opportunity to ensure they forge strong relationships locally?
Yeah, it's a great question, Madam Mayor. I think, you know, I'm loath to say that anything good came out of COVID, but the one thing that did come out of it was the ability to work remote, which is, you know, become part of our work culture. Now, there's certainly lots of good reasons to get people back to places. So I quite like your satellite concept for federal workers in your community. But you know, the first anchor point is freeing people from the tyranny of having to get breathed in and out of a city like a lung every day. And so, you know, that gives us freedom. But the thing that we need to do is figure out, ideally, what can create authentically local-based businesses more than just having people, you know, not working in an office someplace else while the company resentfully pays property taxes for the office that's underpopulated, and not getting any revenue from the person who's working out of their third bedroom. And that's where this plan, I think, is so important, because, you know, the first thing you've got to do is try and pick some winners. And the ones that we've picked have been picked based on, you know, the data of where you have some critical mass, as well as the interests of the various groups. And I think it was, it's a little hard to tell on the screen, but I think it was Councillor Strackerjan who was talking about, you know, linking, it's not just any tourism, it's the right kind, and how arts and culture fits with agribusiness and agritourism. And I couldn't agree more, because that kind of authentic experience that links, you know, it's a pretty relatable passion, the passion for high quality food, high quality experiences around food linked to either the nature or to culture. You know, you have many of those authentic bones in proximity to large population areas. That's why that makes sense. You know, at a time when close to market and organic and higher value add is of greater importance than maybe it has been earlier times in our life. So, you know, but the other thing I just emphasize too is you can have a plan, but you can also be lucky, because when you have entrepreneurs who start doing things and you create ready networks for them to fit into, that's the kind of thing that often gets you secondary investments. And I was just talking to them in Chatham, Kent the other day, and they have this most remarkable fellow who is a world leader. And, you know, that's often said, this is really true, is a world leader in the restoration of vintage automobiles, and competes on a global scale, you know, creating these remarkable recreations basically of 1930s vehicles. Now, that's a remarkable business in itself, and it employs 44 people. He required a hotel so that his customers could come visit him. So he built one. Now and of course a hotel's no good without a quality restaurant. So he created one. And now he's creating a small conference center because he got the bug. And so a fellow who was in auto body decided excellence was a good thing. And I have no idea where that's going to end. But the fascinating thing is, at the same time as he's doing that, closely networked with the mayor and the economic development department, the mayor is running a big cultural component to the beautification of Chatham, and also the satellite hamlets of Chatham. And it's really paying dividends, because when these extremely wealthy people come to visit Chatham to pick up their cars and they stay for a few days in this hotel, they're falling in love with the place, and there's secondary investment going on. So it's amazing how lucky we get when we prepare and practice And I think the flip side to that is if you create these networks and if you have the intentionality of building these networks, when you actually do have a successful entrepreneur, who knows where it's going to take them? I don't suppose the gentleman in the auto body business decided he was going to be a hotelier and a conference center operator. And so it's kind of like putting the fundamentals in place and then letting entrepreneurship blossom. I think increasingly, rather than chasing tax breaks and stuff like that, that's oftentimes one of the most successful ways in communities like yours. Or sometimes you get a battery plant from the province too for electric vehicles, but like somewhere between those two extremes is like that's the other one about having the infrastructure in place where you can be a host site for things. But I think the real important point for MNG is that you're proximate to population centers, you're well led right now, and if you have this kind of focus on bringing people together, you can make the most of the opportunities that do arise the way Chatham is. So sorry for the lengthy answer, but I get quite passionate about this.
No, we appreciate it. Thank you. We want to make good use of your time while you're with us. So council colleagues, is there anything else before we move on to hearing from the chamber? So we have an economic development plan and aspects of an implementation plan, Mr. Gilmore. How would you describe the moment we're in right now?
Yes, Mayor Peckford, that's correct. So as we look to implement the plan over the next couple of years, we'll continue to come back to council with recommendations from the strategy. And we'll also be coming back with budget recommendations and suggestions.
Great. And that 25,000 that has been assigned in this year's budget, I know you mentioned it in the beginning. Can you provide more specificity at this moment in terms of how you plan to utilize those dollars?
Yes, certainly. And as Sabine mentioned, a lot of the work that will be done over the course of this year will be things like relationship building and kind of building the foundation for the implementation of the rest of the plan. However, in terms of the $25,000, it will be used on things like advertising and marketing, promotional material, and updates to our current website.
Okay, thanks. All right, so council colleagues, I'm going to thank Ms. Matheson for her time. Thank you so much. Strategy Corp is a firm that has gotten to know North Grenville quite well. So we appreciate your particular engagement on the development of this plan. It's exciting to see it come to fruition, and I know it promises great things, and this is a council and a staff team that are ready to deliver. So appreciate your time, Sabine. All right. So I think we'll go to hearing from representatives of the chamber next. Thank you. And for those of us not in the room, we're welcoming Mr. Will Pearl, who is the recently elected chair of the chamber. Welcome.
Elected. Wow.
Recently
Appointed,
appointed,
volunteered
chosen.
by my
Yes.
by my fellow board.
Indeed.
Thank you very much for having us here this evening. I'm William Pearl, as been mentioned, the chair of the North Grenville Chamber of Commerce. The opportunity to speak to the economic development plan strategy. There's a lot to like. We're pleased to be consulted throughout the comprehensive strategy plan that was done, and we appreciate the opportunity to speak this evening. The primary importance to the chamber is to ensure that the careful planning process results in some concrete activities that support the 4 strategic priorities that were identified by the plan. And the ones that we wanted to speak to briefly this evening is the community readiness priority. I don't need to read it maybe, but I'll just give a quick priority 1. The collective understanding, motivation, and ability of groups, individuals, and organizations in the community to engage and sustain long-term economic development. And the second was business retention and expansion. That's priority 2. aiming to make the community a better place to do business by supporting existing businesses in North Grenville. Under that strategic priority 2, business readiness and expansion, there's an objective of formalizing relationships to key leaders in the local business community. And since we're here, there's a check mark on that economic development strategic priority. Actions that support that objective are listed. And one that was particular interest to the chamber, and maybe we can help Matt with that budget that he needs to spend, is to refine, re-implement, and scale past initiatives. So Love NG is listed as an example of those initiatives in the strategic plan. We have some ideas to help get this jump started in a real way that will benefit local businesses in the short and long term. You've touched on it tonight, that locally we have a challenge that we face with local business of retaining the spending of our residents, whether new residents or residents have been here for some time may not realize all the services and retail opportunities that they have locally to support. We feel that the municipality has done a great job with the Love NG directory. In case you're at home on YouTube listening to this, loveng.ca is a great directory of local business that is not as well known as it ought to be. I think it's a marvelous resource, and what we'd like to see is the municipality sort of, I can't say it in a better way than low-hanging fruit. It's just something that's we'd like to see a shop local strategy built around that resource. So some ideas. And incidentally, I was in a house today of a new resident to the area that's moved from much further in Eastern Ontario near the border with Quebec. And their print materials that came from the municipality, they know how to do their garbage, they know how to do their recycling. They have some information about services and recreational services in the municipality, but no sign of the loveng.ca directory or any of those shop local initiatives. So that is one thing that we would love to see is print materials, since the municipality is also the first line of contact for me to, as a local business or the chamber, to let people know what's here before they move here is difficult. But one of their first points of contact when they do come to the community is going to be the municipality. So you're uniquely positioned to support the efforts of shopping local. We have a little list, print materials in a local welcome package when folks pick up their blue or green recycling box. Print materials on initial contact with the municipality, QR code advertising added to property tax bills, water bills, any point of contact that could promote the shop local message, prominent signage at the municipal center, possibly a business directory kiosk at the municipal center, so that aforementioned directory could be on a iPad bolted to the wall. A social media strategy and a sponsored ad campaign to continue that shop local message in a real way. So these are a few of the examples, simple initiatives that could see us support local businesses. We have world-class service providers and retail in this community, and we want to be loud and proud with our messaging to residents. So thank you again for the opportunity to speak tonight. Recognizing that it's I don't know how late this all goes, but I'll try to be brief. And thank you for giving us the floor to bring a delegation to council around this. Thank you.
Thank you. Great, appreciate that. And, obviously, by virtue of the strong presence of both the chamber and the BIA, I think we're really delighted and pleased to hear your enthusiasm for aspects of the community economic development strategy. To your point, a lot of it does sound like low-hanging fruit, and maybe not to put Mr. Gilmore on the spot, but is there anything tangibly, Mr. Gilmore, that we can do in the short to midterm when we look at some of that visibility? It's absolutely the case that I often say that when you come into a new municipality, it's your parks, it's your roads and your taxes. That's what people see very quickly upon their arrival. So, Mr. Gilmore, what are your initial thoughts on some of the feasibility of some of the suggestions Mr. Prohl has made?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Peckford, and thank you, Will, for coming and presenting tonight, as well as Terry Lynn, the Executive Director, and Karen Quigley, who's the past Chair of the Chamber as well. So thank you very much for your presentation. And again, as I mentioned at the top of my presentation, thank you for all your continued support. And again, I'll say it, without the Chamber, we're not going to be able to move this plan forward. So it's going to be important that we work closely together on certain initiatives, and especially the Love and G brand, which I think the Chamber can certainly take a little bit of credit for. As I know, you've been in the past successful in receiving some funding to help with the development of the Love and G brand. Excuse me. So thank you for that. And certainly the plan will be to continue with the Love and G brand, as well as we have discussed, to your point, regarding the Love and G directory and kind of the lack of having anything to give to businesses when they come here. We are talking about two ideas and in the very early stages, but one would be to even have some type of mini kiosk at the front desk. So when businesses do come, or even new residents do come, they can see that we do have a business directory with all the available services. So easy to log in and check out all the available services that we have. And then a little less fancy of a version would be for us to have some type of postcard that we could hand to new residents. And it would basically just have a QR code where you could log in to the directory as well. So yes, certainly lots to discuss, but I appreciate the suggestions and look forward to working with you on them.
Great. Thanks. Anything from Council? Council Barclay, yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to Mr. Pearl. Hi, Will. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge and thank the Chamber for the close working relationship it's had with the downtown Campbell BIA. As you know, I sit on the board of the BIA, and I've had a long history with the BIA, and I'm very gratified to see the close working relationship. The kinds of fundamentals that Sabine Matheson talked about just prior to your presentation. It's really important to build connections in the community that can foster growth of local businesses and to retain them and help them to expand. Because as we all know, 80% of all new jobs are created by small businesses. And I think working together, we can foster that kind of environment in the community and attract more businesses coming in and help local businesses to expand and build. So thank you very much for your cooperation with the BIA.
Thank you, Mr. Barclay.
Thanks. All right. Good. I think you're good. Thanks for your time. Okay, that is, so Council, we are asking for a mover and a seconder to receive the Community Economic Development Strategy for information. And I'm just curious, we're receiving it, not approving it?
Yes, Madam Mayor, as Mr. Gilmore mentioned, he'll be bringing recommendations forward that will be approved as priorities for council in the coming months and years as he looks to implement different parts of the strategy.
Okay, so the first phase of that, Mr. Gilmore, you would expect to come to council?
Yes, I would say over the next couple of months, those recommendations would be coming to council.
Okay, great. I think we're eager to see that first
Yes, for sure.
tranche.
Especially, I mean, as we get into, I mean, we're halfway through the year now, but as we get into the 2025 budget, there'll certainly be many recommendations included as part of that.
Great, thanks. Okay, that's a great clarification. So I'll look for a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Sullivan, Deputy Mayor, thank you. Excellent. All right. If there's nothing further, I'll call the question. All in favor, please. Good, that carries. Thank you. So, council colleagues, I know we started early today, so it's a long evening, but I'd like to proceed with the Police Services Board Annual Report, and then maybe we could take a quick 5 minutes after that. Does that work? All right. And Ms. Preston, are you on deck for that? Okay, thanks.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm very pleased this evening to present the 2023 Annual Police Service Board Report to Council. I will note that OPP will be bringing their 2023 annual report in the coming months. They have changed their software and the platform with which they intend to create a more standardized reporting across the province. So our detachment commander is working closely with her colleagues to be able to present that in the next coming months so that council can receive that as well. So that is forthcoming as well. So, as council may be aware, but for public knowledge, annually, any detachment board or police service board is required to report annually on their annual operations as a board of the municipality. We are very fortunate in North Grenville to have a very active police service board, as was the case in 2023. For those that are unaware or that have seen some of our advertisements, we have very recently amalgamated with our neighboring municipality, Merrickville-Wolford, and effective April 1st this year, we now have an amalgamated board which has a new composition of members. And so that the first meeting will take place in July, setting forth the budget and operations that this joint venture will produce for our combined communities. And so we look forward to that. They have completed their initial training in accordance with the new act, but there will be more to come for council to see as that relationship comes to fruition. I would just note that this is an annual requirement to report to council. So we'll skip through a lot of the formalities and speak to the achievements of the board, which I think are the most notable mentions this evening. Council may or may not be aware that there are some protocols and procedures that the board has undergone and is coveted for across the province and in our neighboring communities for the policies and procedures that we have adopted as a police service board. Most notably is the protocol for handling resident complaints on with regards to traffic, that it's available on our municipal website. And I'm happy to note that many communities often reach out as a resource for them to adopt similar policies in this regard. So thank you to the Police Service Board for championing that effort. And the notable achievements in 2023 are listed below. They are the continued funding to the award-winning North Grenville Road Safety Campaign. Throughout the rest of the slideshow, you'll see some of the advertisements that have been provided in the local papers, as well as on social media. We had funding for 2 Remember Adam campaign billboards. They are will be finalized in the summer of 2024. This is a joint venture between the counties, the municipality, Lockwood Brothers Construction, and the Police Service Board. We are looking for those to be inaugurated in the fall once school returns in September. So that'll be a wonderful thing to see, but that initially started in 2023 when the campaign was brought to the board. The board also provides financial support to a number of organizations, including Courageous Canines, R&J Youth Services, and Mothers Against Drunk Driving. They also collaborated with the schools to provide bursaries that were awarded last year, and I'm proud to say that many of them will be awarded in the next coming weeks for 2024. As well, there are a number of other funding. The most notable is the proceeds from the crime frontline policing, and that we were successfully secured a partnership with the Grenville OPP for that grant funding. We are a member of the OAPSB in Zone 2. We're very fortunate to have many colleagues along OAPSB and for members to attend those meetings regionally and bring resources that are available within other communities. We're also happy to report that there were many traffic initiatives that were entertained in 2023, including the speed assessments that were done on several county roads, as well as Concession Road, Rubin Crescent, and Heard Street. The other initiatives that were undertaken on a variety of municipal roads are listed here, where there were notable traffic concerns from residents, and these were collectively looked at between the Public Works Department and the Police Service Board. You'll see these two are examples of some of the road safety campaign partnerships that were entered into. We're very proud to be able to report that this was a well received campaign amongst the community, and that it is award-winning, and North Grenville is a proud recipient of that for many years, and that it's an initiative that is well contributed to various safety initiatives throughout the year. In conclusion, I would note that the 2023 composition of the board included Mayor Peckford, Deputy Mayor John Barkley, and resident member Greg Brown. But as mentioned, our new composition, which will be reported on shortly, is a joint and amalgamated effort between Merrickville, Wolford, and North Grenville. Happy to take any questions. And I would also direct that Mayor Peckford and Deputy Mayor are also well in tune to answer any questions as well.
Just to say that very small number of people on the Police Services Board that is soon to be morphed into the Detachment Board was a function of the province really limiting renewals of board members under the outgoing Police Services Board model. So we were left with just 3 individuals on the board as a consequence of being caught in a transition, if you will, that many communities were caught in. But thankfully, with the new Detachment Services Board, with Merrifield Wolford, we have I think a healthy board of 9. So increased numbers, which is really exciting to see. I just have one question, and I'm so grateful that it appeared in the report. We did make that contribution, I think, to our own municipal public works department for 200 slowdown signs that I think are pending. Maybe Ms. Dunlop or Mr. Finley, you can inform us on the fate of those signs and when we might expect them to be in circulation. I know they were designed last summer, if I'm not mistaken.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The signs were approved by the Police Services Board. It's the procurement piece that we're still going through and trying to develop the policy of the implementation of the signs. So those are in tandem working together. We do hope to be able to get those signs out sooner than later for use by the public.
Excellent. And the procurement process being a municipal procurement process or a PSB procurement process?
Municipal procurement process to buy the signs.
To purchase the signs.
Yep.
Excellent. Okay. Great to see it there, because I know we were very excited to make some of that funding available. And we know that individuals and sometimes neighborhoods are taking it upon themselves to distribute these signs. And we saw in communities just north of us that there was widespread use of the signs, and they seem to be making a difference. Any other questions, council colleagues, in regards to the Police Services Board report? I think we want to thank, it's been a very strong board for many, many years, and it was ably led, certainly by community leaders prior to Deputy Mayor taking the charge. But I want to thank Deputy Mayor for his service to the board. It's been a lot of work, and I was grateful amid many other commitments that you were able to step up, Councillor Barkley, and steward the board. So it's been great working with you, and look forward to seeing how the new Detachment Services Board evolves as well. Councillor Sullivan, I did see your hand.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Preston, for the report. I just wanted to clarify, when a traffic concern report is submitted through the concern form on North Grenville's website, do those traffic concerns get shared with the Police Services Board? Like if it's related to speeding or, something inappropriate driving, are they shared with the Police Services Board?
Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah. You might recall in the presentation that the clerk gave that one of the protocols that we've established is the traffic complaints. So we have a procedure protocol of when those complaints are received by Public Works, they're evaluated, and ones that need to go to the OPP for enforcement or additional policing are forwarded to them directly. Before, it used to have to come back to the Police Service Board, and it was quite a lengthy process, but we streamlined that a couple of years ago. So not all, but yes.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Anything else, colleagues, at this stage of the game? Okay, thank you. And of course, Ms. Preston, I think you inherited this board when you joined us in the fall, so also appreciate your contributions and getting up to speed very quickly and supporting the board as you have. So very grateful for your efforts as well. So we'll look to a mover and a seconder, please. Councilor Strachan. And a seconder, please. Thank you, Councilor Wilson. Appreciate that. And that is that council received the North Grenville Police Services Board 2023 annual report to council. Is there anyone I should have thanked that I didn't? I think I did, right? Okay, we're good. Okay. I'll call the question. All in favor, please? Thank you. That carries. And we're just going to take a quick 5 minutes. The Oilers have not started playing, but they are imminently, and we're moving along in our agenda. So those of you who are Oilers fans, we're going to say go team. All right, we're going to call everyone back so we can keep moving. Okay. So we're going to invite Ms. Dunlop to just provide a brief status update on Ferguson Forest. Thank you, Ms. Dunlop.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we had all of council back. Yes, Councillor Wilson. I apologize. Okay, so while we're waiting for our last councillor to return, my understanding is after that, we'll be looking at the Blue Community Policy. There's a short explanation of the assignment of Colonnade subdivision, and we have a sanitary rehabilitation award. Is that what remains? Except for the notice motion, of course. Okay, excellent. Okay, so we'll invite Ms. Dunlop to provide that quick status update, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Staff were directed by council to return in June with implications and options of the Ferguson Forest Center's request to council. Since then, staff have been working with the Ferguson Forest Center to obtain additional documentation to assist in providing a fulsome report, including financial and governance documents. At this time, staff have received the requested documentation and have begun our in-depth review. However, at this time, staff are unable to provide a recommendation, options, or implications to council and anticipate that once all the documentation is reviewed, a report will be presented early fall. Staff request of council an extension in providing the options and implications in order to ensure all considerations and investigations have been undertaken to provide council and the public with a clear picture.
Perfect. Thank you. We appreciate your due diligence, Ms. Dunlop, and of course, members of your team. So next, we'll move on. We have, I think, a quick report from Parks, Rec, and Culture on the Blue Community Policy. Mr. Guy.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. So yes, I'm back this evening with an update for the Blue Communities Policy. As Council recalls, staff made a presentation on this policy and the report and draft policy to Council on May 7th, 2024. The recommendation was deferred at the time and requested staff, I said not consider, but consider the use of bottled water at municipal facilities be reworded. And staff are also asked to present more information on potable drinking water at Maplewood Hall and South Gore Park. So just to go over the recommendations for implementation once again, phase one, which is this year, the municipality will encourage and promote the use of well water or municipal tap water in municipal facilities to our stakeholders by communicating information through the municipal website, social media platforms, and signage within our facilities. Phase two, we will continue to support stakeholders by providing alternative methods of serving water at events held at indoor municipal facilities by installing indoor water filling stations here at the municipal center. We'll work with the curling club at the private Blake Williams Memorial Hall and as well as the fire hall. And implement the ban on the sale of bottled water at indoor municipal facilities, including the North Grenville Municipal Center, private Blake Williamson Memorial Hall, North Grenville Library, and the canteen at the North Grenville Municipal Center. Phase three, the municipality will support its stakeholders by providing alternative methods of serving water at outside events at Riverside Park by purchasing portable water filling stations for use and ban the sale of bottled water at Riverside Park. With respect to Maplewood Hall and South Gore Park, staff, the Parks and Recreation Department, with support from the water and sewer staff, will coordinate with the Leeds Grenville Atlantic District Health Unit to carry out the required steps to complete an updated license for Maplewood Hall and South Gore Park for potable drinking water. As part of this report, updated report, there was an attached memo from the wastewater compliance coordinator outlining the steps required to update the licenses for both of these facilities. Once complete, the license has been issued, the municipality will ban the sale of bottled water at these facilities and install a water filling station at South Gore Park. Some of the financial implications, the purchase of indoor water filling stations are between $3,000 and $5,000. This year, we have installed an indoor and outdoor water filling station at the North Grenville Public Library. And I believe we will be installing a third water filling station here at the North Grenville Municipal Center on the main side of the building. We will be purchasing outdoor water filling stations from Kempville Live at a cost of $3,200 that can be used for at Riverside Park and some of our other facilities that host community or public events. And with the updated licenses that we hope to require for Maplewood Hall and South Gore Park, there will be increased water testing at those facilities as well. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. I certainly appreciate the phased approach and the additional efforts at Maplewood Hall and South Gore. It's wonderful. So I'll open it up for questions. I see Councillor Strachan.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor, and thank you very much, Director Guy, for moving this forward. I know there's a lot of folks that are waiting to see progress on this, so this is a good sign. I have one comment and I guess a question regarding the water filling stations. One, I think the price may be not correct in your slides. You may want to look at the invoices previously because there were two different water filling stations. But looking to purchase those is a great idea, I think, and would be a great benefit to the community. Is there going to be a policy set in place that would make those available for perhaps rent to community and community groups for different events?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Strachan, you're speaking of the outdoor water filling stations?
Yes, the ones that used to belong to, or currently
Live.
belong to Kempville Live.
At this point, yes, we plan on purchasing them. And staff are considering whether we're going to offer them as a courtesy or we would attach a rental charge to them if community groups would like to use them. But we certainly see the ability of community groups being able to access those water filling stations. That would be, I think, the point of ensuring that they get used, not just for municipal events, but the opportunity for community groups to use them as well.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Mr. Guy, in the absence of other hands, I'll just take the opportunity to also ask a question. I really support the addition of other bottled water filling stations within the municipality and in other municipal facilities, because I think the reality is close proximity to those water filling stations is imperative to support people in being able to provide water that isn't bottled. So I'm appreciative that you're thinking through both levels of this building where we have use upstairs and downstairs on both sides. And I just wanted to get some clarification. The maintenance of those filtration systems, those water filling stations, is it done by us or is it done by the contracted provider who installs the water filling stations?
Thanks for your question, Madam Mayor. If there's any maintenance to be done, generally we would use a local plumber to
Okay.
provide any type of maintenance service that would be required if it's something that staff can't handle.
And the filtration, so the filtration system itself, is that replaced periodically by municipal staff then? Right, because my understanding is it's filtered water, or is it just water filling stations?
Sorry, excuse me. It's a water filling station and there's no filtration within those water filling stations.
Gotcha.
It's basically the municipal water system.
Okay, that's fine. I just didn't know if there's an additional level of filtration, but there isn't in terms of the water filling stations.
There is not.
Okay, so they're established, and then the expectation is that they work fairly well, and if they require service, it would just be through a local plumber.
That is correct.
Okay, excellent. Okay, great. So I assume as you move to implement those water filling stations. You'll keep us updated on the first and second phase of the transition. Is that right?
That is correct. And with respect to the updated licensing, and Mr. Finley, maybe we would want to comment on this. We've mentioned it as a phase 3. If it can be done sooner, then we absolutely would try and get that license updated sooner. And I don't know if Mike, if you have any comment on that.
So through you, Madam Mayor, yeah, the licensing, from what we understand, it's a health unit requirement to license the facilities as potable. What they'll do is they'll assess the water that's there, what kind of treatment is being done there, and they'll provide the recommendations that need to be followed for that those facilities. So it seems from our understanding a bit more of an administrative function to make sure we follow the regs as that needs to happen through the health unit regulations. So we'll continue to work with Parks and Recreation Division as well as the health unit to ensure moving these as quickly as possible.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, if there's nothing else, then I'll ask council to consider the following, and that is that council adopt the Blue Community Policy to be implemented in phases to further support the designation of the municipality of North Grenville as a blue community. I'll look for a mover and a seconder, please. Council Strachan. And Deputy Mayor, thank you. And I will call the question. All in favor? Good, thank you. Okay. With that, we just have 2 remaining items. Ms. Martin, I think I'm going to put you on the spot for K.7.1. Is that your department assignment of Colonnade subdivision?
That is correct, Your Worship. So I don't have a formal presentation, so I'm just going to provide a verbal explanation. So we received a request from a compliance letter that we often deal with at the staff level, where when we started to review the subdivision agreement, there was noted that there was a clause which requires that the municipality agree that the subdivision agreement be assigned to a new purchaser or party of interest within the Colonnade development. So when we recognized that there was this provision that we needed council approval, we consulted with our legal counsel to ensure like what are the necessary steps, and they recommended a resolution of council. So what this means is that Desjardins Financial Security Life Insurance Company, which currently holds 100% interest within a majority of the lands within the Colonnade development, is seeking to either provide a portion of or all of their interest to another company, and they're seeking council's authorization as per the agreement for this transaction to happen. Our legal counsel, based on their review of the request and in consultation with staff, believe that it is reasonable to consent to the assignments from one party to the other. And we are not aware of any deficiencies or within the site, and we have released all securities related to the affected lands. So it is staff's recommendation that, as per the subdivision agreement, that council provides the consent to reassign a portion or all of the interests of the Colonnade development to the company identified within the report.
Great, thank you. And just a question, because of course, we've had these extended and protracted negotiations around connectivity. Does this affect jurisdiction over which business entities can support North Grenville in creating that connectivity between Kevlar and Colonnade? Because I know that by virtue of having to navigate 3 different entities, it's been difficult. So I'm just curious, Ms. Dunlop, maybe you can answer that.
Director Finley can answer on the specific status, but Desjardins is one of the properties that were around the table when we undertook the feasibility study as an extension of the rail trail to the north of 43. And if I can ask Director Finley, can you give us an update on that one?
So through you, Madam Mayor, in terms of the status of that pathway, we are still trying to open up communications with the different property owners in terms of their concerns with liability items for that. So we will continue to do that and see if we can reach some understandings and get everybody's buy-in, if you will, to make that connection. So we are still working on it, but there's been maybe this is part of it. There's been a bit of a hold off at the moment in moving forward.
So perhaps if you're in communication directly with one of those business entities, you could take the opportunity to alert, I think, Desjardins of the fact that we are hopeful to get a connection point between the properties. I know sometimes these things are not high on the priority list of these particular business interests, but it's a priority for us. So just by virtue of being in communication, perhaps it's a opportune time to highlight that we're still looking for that connection point.
Yeah, we can definitely flag them again and bring it back to the top of their attention.
Right, especially if they need something from us. Indeed. Okay. I think I understand what's happening here, but I would really urge you to highlight where we'd love to have their collaboration as they seek our collaboration. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A quick question through you to Ms. Martin. Did I understand from your presentation that we were holding securities?
Through your worship to the deputy mayor, no, we've released all securities in relation to the development.
Recently or historically?
I would have to go back through our records, but I think they've been released for quite some time now. I do not recall in my 5-year tenure here that I've ever had to process a release of securities. So I'm going to assume it happened prior to that.
Okay. So the motion is that council consent to assignment of the subdivision agreement to a prospective purchaser of the Colonnade development. And when we say prospective purchaser, I guess that's where I'm just still getting caught. Is it all of the development or just parcels of the development as featured in your report?
Thank you, Your Worship. So it would be the properties that are identified within the report, and they have the option, being Desjardins has the option to provide either a portion of their interest or their full interest being reassigned to a new party.
And that party isn't clear to us yet?
In the letter that was provided from their legal counsel, they identify it as, just 2 seconds here. It's a long name. DGAM, Ontario Retail Real Estate General Partner, Inc.
Right. Okay, so I'll look for a mover and a seconder then. So I have Deputy Mayor Barkley and O'Sullivan. And I will call the question. All in favor? I think it is imperative that we find a way to build bridges with this new company. If in fact Desjardins is transferring their interest, and I believe that we are showing a lot of goodwill, and I'd like to see that goodwill from them as well. But I'm not sure they would even have context for this conversation unless we find a way to work directly with this new entity. So I'm hopeful someone around this table can help to advance the conversation. All right, Mr. Finley, Public Works, trenchless sanitary rehabilitation. It sounds ominous or fortuitous. I can't quite tell. You tell me. Trenchless sanitary rehabilitation.
So trenchless, we have less disruption to the
gotcha.
public. So the report we have in front of council tonight is the award of the trenchless sanitary main rehabilitation. So this is basically relining of sections of sanitary main. Again, the purpose is to award this project in 6 sections of sanitary main to Clean Water Works Incorporated in the amount of just over $153,000, excluding taxes. So in a bit of background, trenchless rehabilitation is cost effective in terms of basically a lining is placed inside the sanitary main. It is cured over time, and it acts as on a couple of items to reduce any infiltration through cracks and items that have been identified in the main, as well as it repairs that. It provides a structural improvement to the main because if there are structural cracks, then it could collapse. So it provides that extra strength. And as well, any tree roots or items that have protruded through, those are cleaned out and relined so that for an operational perspective, improves the ability of that sanitary main. We do assess sections of our sanitary mains annually, and then we look for prioritization of which sections need to be repaired and how we're going to do those maintenance items. And when we can avoid disruptions through this trenchless technology, so we're not digging up the road, we do look to optimize this. Again, we also see a cost savings because of the less invasive technology that we're doing. Next slide, please. So this tender was released in April and closed in May. We did receive 5 submissions, and originally we're looking at 11 sections of the sanitary main to be relined, totaling about 800 meters. The lowest tender was received from Clean Water Works for just over $220,000, which was above what we had approved for this project. So staff did review the sections that were in the tender based on a prioritized list that we had on the severity of the condition of those sanitary mains. We are recommending to reline 6 of the 11 that were identified in the tender for just over 518 meters of main, which puts the project within budget for a standard price of $153,793.50 excluding taxes. Next slide, please. So this map provides the locations of sanitary main that we are looking to reline. So we have 2 sections on Rideau Street, sections that intersect Barnes Street and Clothier Street, as well as a second section on Clothier Street between James and Parliament. And then there's a section on Georgiana Street as well. So those are the 6 that we are recommending to have relined. Again, our recommendation is to move forward with the 6 based on the priorities that were identified from staff's evaluation of the tender close. And if approved, we do anticipate that the relining would be completed by the end of October. And I'm happy to answer any questions council has.
All right, colleagues, any questions? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Mr. Finley. How were the 11 sections identified? On what criteria? And how important is it to complete those 11? Or is it an ongoing list? Sorry, kind of convoluted question, but do we have a master list of relining in a time frame for how many we need to do in the short term?
So through you, Madam Mayor, we do. So the structural integrity of the mains, as well as any operational deficiencies we see, are done through the annual CCTV reports. So when we send a camera down the mains, we do a section of the municipality once every 5 years. And through that report, the consultant provides us with a rating, a structural rating and an operational rating. And so those are what we use to prioritize which mains we are looking to reline. We keep that ongoing running list, but we also prioritize it because some may be more severe, but relining is not the proper rehabilitation method. Some are, if it's disjointed too much, it won't fix that issue. So we have to look at the condition of it, as well as what lines need to be done and how we're going to do them. The rating of the ones that we pulled out were lower than what the priority ones. They had a structural condition of 5, concern of 5, and then we dropped, once we got rid of these 6, it was moved down to a 2. And 5s being the most severe, 0 being no concern was identified. The ones that we pulled were multiple sections on Rideau Street, because we We know Rideau Street is on our list for replacement. However, with County Road 43 and the other construction projects going on, it is multiple years away from having a full rehabilitation done. So we are looking to by that time and not having those sections that were lower priority getting worse. So they will be moved to recommendations in our 2025 budget. Of course, it'll depend also on the priorities that we see in this year's CCTV ratings. If we have more severe lines in those, they'll be prioritized as such.
Great. So from what I understand, until we have the funding to replace water mains on Rideau, which would involve, digging up, we will try and, I hesitate to say patch, but try and buy some time, as you said, until such time as we can properly replace those pipes.
That's correct. If we're looking for a full street rebuild, then digging it all up and replacing it with new material is the most cost effective. Because we're only doing the sanitary main, it is a lot more cost effective to just reline. The reline material, based on the documentation provided, does increase the lifespan 20, 30 years. So it's not a patch by means. It will hold that pipe together for an extensive period of time. However, since we're not doing the whole road, this is the most cost-effective method to fix those by prioritized items.
I guess similarly, I was curious to see that you took some sections of street off the list. I guess carefully calculating how much time you're trying to buy to, in fact, buy more time, right, with the relining. So I think, I think if you had said to us, listen, it's really urgent, like we need it done this year, I think you might have found a council that was fairly willing to grant you the additional dollars to get all of what you had foreseen done, not to speak on behalf of my council colleagues, but just anticipating, of course, that we know that there are regular breaks, right? In some cases, I guess, more water main breaks than sewer breaks. So maybe what I'm hearing is you're confident in how you've decided to deploy the resources this year with the relinings.
That's correct, Madam Mayor. Based on our review, moving the lower rated lines out a year, we don't see a concern based on what we've seen in the reviews.
Okay. Any other questions, colleagues? Seeing none, then I will look to the recommendation, and that is that council approve the award of NG 2412 for trenchless sanitary rehabilitation, in part inclusive of item 6 sections of sanitary main and a contingency of $15,000 to Clean Water Works, Inc., in the amount of $153,793.50, including applicable taxes. Mover and a seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Thank you, Councillor Barkley. And I'll call the question. All in favor? Great. So it's 1-0 for the Oilers. Yay, auspicious, an auspicious start to the game. And now we're going to go, I think, to Councillor Sullivan's notice of motion. Welcome, Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to acknowledge the assistance of our clerk, Ms. Preston, who assisted in putting this motion together, as well as Health, Wellness, Fitness Advisory Committee and Ontario Health and some local family physicians, and a lot of organizations that help me gather all the research for this. So here we go. Whereas primary care frequently represents an individual's first point of contact with the healthcare system and is often regarded as the foundation of healthcare, including but not limited to the prevention of illness and the maintenance of health. And whereas more than 2 million people living in Ontario don't have access to a dedicated primary care provider. And whereas little to no attention has been given to the role of the primary care nurse, nurse practitioner, RN, and RPN by governments, employers, and professional associations, And as a result, this role is grossly underutilized to the detriment of the public and health system as a whole. And whereas there is a significant potential for the roles of nurse practitioners, registered nurses, and registered practical nurses in primary care to be expanded to optimize patient care outcomes and achieve system efficiency and cost effectiveness, including but not limited to reducing patient wait lists for appointments, reducing non-emergent visits to emergency departments, as well as reducing hospital readmissions. And whereas capitalizing on the education and experience of nurse practitioners, registered nurses, and registered practical nurses is central to solving access to primary care for everyone, including people living in rural and remote communities. And whereas most primary care organizations do not have the ability to charge for healthcare services provided by another healthcare provider. And whereas the addition of registered nurses on mobile crisis teams has proven to be cost-effective in the significant reduction of police arrests and transfers of people to emergency departments. And whereas nurse practitioners and registered nurses represent a grossly underutilized resource in Ontario's primary care system. Now therefore be it resolved that the Municipal Council of the Corporation of North Grenville believes that resident access to primary care is a basic need for a healthy community, calls on all provincial political parties to support primary care nurses to full scope of practice, to practice to full scope within interprofessional teams, including providing the necessary mentorship, team building, team roles clarification, and acknowledgement of local support needs. Calls on all political parties to issue directives to the Ministry of Health with specific timelines for the upward mobilization of nurse practitioners, registered nurses, and registered practical nurse scope of practice across all primary care settings as a first step to maximize all roles within the interprofessional primary care teams. Fourth, calls on the Ministry of Health to provide primary care organizations with the funding required to offer competitive compensation and benefits to primary care nurses and other health professionals, eliminating inequalities with other sectors of the healthcare system, and to reform the physician compensation models in a way that advances full utilization of nurses and all other health professionals while ensuring fair compensation for physicians. And further, that this resolution be circulated to the President of AMO, Colin Best, Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, Honorable Sylvia Jones, the Minister of Health, MPP Steve Clark, Member of Provincial Parliament for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes, the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Ontario, the College of Nurses of Ontario, the Registered Nurses Association of Ontario, the Registered Practical Nurses Association of Ontario, the Nurse Practitioners Association of Ontario, and all regional municipalities as significant actors in ensuring the need for expanded primary care operations.
Thank you. A very fulsome notice of motion. Thank you. Very well articulated. So council colleagues, I think what we're looking for here is a seconder for this motion. Is that correct? And then any discussion? Okay. So do we have a willing seconder for that notice of motion? Thank you. Deputy Mayor. Okay. I know that this is a conversation that Councillor Sullivan has been leading for some time. So certainly see tremendous value in continuing to advocate. So I'll leave it there. Any other comments or questions? Not seeing any. I know that certainly Councillor O'Sullivan and I and others who have sat in, I think Councillor Wilson, you sat in too on the primary physician committee, have some of the practices have alerted us to the fact that they are now utilizing nurse practitioners, and it is dramatically increasing access and reducing wait times to see a practitioner. at one of the locally operated family clinics. So it seems so obvious, really. So we've got a mover and a seconder. And if there's nothing further, I'll call the question. All in favor? Good, that carries. Thank you again for such a fulsome motion. So, colleagues, here we are, introduction and consideration of bylaws. I think that's been addressed. I don't believe we have any remaining members of the public or media. They're all watching the Oilers game. And not just, I understand there are many other very important things happening in the community. So we'll go to close the meeting. Confirmation bylaw, be it resolved that bylaw 4524 to confirm proceedings of council at its regular meeting held on June 18th be adopted and passed. Councillor Wilson, Councillor Strachan, thank you. I'll call the question. All in favor? And resolution to adjourn at 9 a.m. sharp, PM sharp, as promised. Deputy Mayor, Councillor O'Sullivan, thank you. Calling the question. All in favor? All right. Okay, sounds good.